Well, welcome back to Lucore Automotive. This is the exciting conclusion, part 2, of the Pontiac LeMans transmission torque converter nightmare situation problems. So in part 1, I was enjoying my car. It was nice and sunny outside, driving around, having a good time, wasting fuel, making good sounds. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. Driving down the road, lost high gear, pulled up to a stoplight, and car shut off. If you haven't watched that, watch part 1. It's kind of a drama-filled video where you have a lot of happiness in the beginning and then a whole lot of sadness in the end. Anyway, that was part 1. Now we're part 2. Engine seems like it's fine. Transmission's out of the car. Transmission's being disassembled. And Rich is going to go through everything to figure out exactly what failed and hopefully not end up having to put a new transmission in this car. So, could be a torque converter issue, could be a transmission issue, not entirely sure yet, but yeah, that's why we're pulling it apart, and yeah. So, if you're interested, stay tuned, here we go.
So none of these clutch discs are burnt, so all of our gears were fine. We had a torque converter failure that put debris through the whole thing, which is unfortunate. So it's hosed out. Well, we could clean it. We can pull the valve body. We can clean all the schmutz out of it, put it back together, put a new torque converter on it, and see what happens. Maybe you'll get another $400. We'll see. Because the other alternative is doing a 4L80E conversion, which is about $4 grand. Let me wash my hands. I'll be right there.
As I said in the intro, this is basically one of those situations of we honestly have no idea exactly what failed or why. So you kind of go through a little bit of a diagnostic teardown here. Pull the valve body off, inspect for damage, see if any of the gaskets are ripped, if anything's messed up. Obviously the fluid is absolutely disgusting. I'm not going to include that in this video because it hurt my soul in the first video. But essentially the fluid that used to be red is now essentially silver. So pull the valve body off, make sure the gaskets are good. There were no tears, there were no damage, obvious marks on the separator plate or on any of the gasket materials. So that didn't look like it was our issue. Now there could still be an issue with the valve body itself, but at this point in time we're still pretty good. We're not really seeing anything that looks obvious other than the immense amount of metal in the fluid.
No check ball. Check ball, check ball. No check ball. No check ball. Well, let's snap a picture where our check balls are at. There's only 2 in this transmission, which is odd. Well, it is a B&M shift kit transmission, so I don't know. Let's figure that out. 3 check balls. 1, 2, 3. Not great. That makes more sense. Oh, I need to beat my pan and weld my hole shut. So let's do that real quick. Alright, so tore the transmission down. Lots of stuff in it. I didn't find any failures. All my planetaries look good, everything rolls good, my sprags are good. All of my friction and my band, nothing's burnt, so we know we had good pressure. I'm leaning back towards a converter failure. And we'll find that out because we're going to send the converter back, have it cut open, rebuilt. They're going to send us some pictures of it. So we'll send you that carnage when they get around to it. But I've already air checked all of my clutch packs with it assembled. All of my clutch packs operate as they should, so I know my rotating mass is all in and in correctly. So I'm going to put the pan on it, put a converter on it, put it back in the car. We'll fill it up with fluid. I do need to flush the trans cooler out to get as much bad fluid out as I can. But we'll get it back in there, and then we'll see what happens. Find out if I was right in my original diagnosis or not. I still think it's a converter, but we'll find out here soon enough. Torque my pan on, and we'll be ready to put it in the car. Since we have this handy box, we're gonna ship this one right back to those guys and let them cut it open and see what's going on with this. Let's put approximately 1 quart of fluid in this torque converter. This is gonna take a bit. I understand.
To me, common sense would say that it is.
I've never really investigated.
So I'm going to pump 2 quarts of fresh fluid through both of my coolers. That'll get any contaminated fluid out, and then basically I'm just going to blow it out all the way through until I have no fluid left in it. And then I can charge it from the transmission as we fire this thing up. Gotta have clean fluid, man. Because what's in there is gross.
So will this just pull? Is this just pulling?
No, it's pushing. So I'm pushing out of the canister through the system and dumping it into the drain pan. So I'm just pushing 2 quarts through
So
to
you
make
put
sure.
like 4 pounds of pressure here and no
Yeah,
pressure here.
and it just pushes it through. This is how we're charging, how we're filling transfer cases and stuff now. This is so easy.
Okay.
I may actually get a couple more of these and dedicate one to trans fluid, one to engine oil, one to gear oil. Because the gear oil attacks the seals, and I'm like, well, at least then I can
hold pressure.
Right. So, but yeah, we're nice and clean coming out now. So that worked well.
It looks a lot better than it did when it came out of the transmission.
So we'll just let that run all the way through, and then I'll put the transmission in. Transfer case is charged with 1 quart. Torque converter is charged with 1 full quart, and it's installed. It slid right on, and it rotates like it should. So I'm gonna put it in and
Didn't
fire
have
it
to
up.
beat it on.
I didn't have to beat it on like I had to pry it off.
There we go. Brand new converter in the freshly rebuilt transmission.
You like my trans cooler flusher?
That's decent.
It's not too bad. Have a good night, dude. Oh, crap. That made a mess.
And then you kick it all over the floor.
That's the end of it. With that, I guess it's time to put this thing back up in here and see if it's bad or not. What you can do this without dropping this on the floor. Because that would be bad.
Look at them sexy new exhaust tips. I got my Trans Am tips back, baby. Thank you very much to Pipes for making some unbelievably expensive exhaust tips, Trans Am style. But they look real nice. And it's gonna make my sound come out here.
Bounce it off the streets. So you can see my torque converter rolls nice and clean. It slides in and out of my hub nice and smooth. So my alignment's good. I'm hitting these bolts. I'm going to put 2 washers in between the tabs and the flywheel flex plate. And then we'll bolt this thing down and see what happens. All right, I've got nice spacing on my bolts. My hub is centered. Everything rolls nice, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm waiting for trans fluid to show up. It'll be here in the morning. Basically, I went through the transmission. I didn't find anything major wrong, which means most likely my failure is inside the converter, and it's threw stuff all throughout the transmission. Either that or it wasn't cleaned out previously. I don't know. I didn't see the inside of it before. It was a working, running, driving transmission. It was pulled when we did the engine. It was freshened up by a local business that actually the guy retired since building this, but it is what it is. I decided to just tear it apart, go through it, clean everything up, see if I could find anything wrong. Didn't find anything wrong. There was one valve in the valve body that didn't move, and I determined that is actually part of the upgrade to this transmission. It's often done in shift kits as well. It's a 1-2 shift valve. When you're in manual low, it will open and allow the transmission to shift into second gear. So that is actually disabled for performance applications so that you can run your first gear and then have your shift, and it won't bypass your shift. It allows you to either shift your transmission or over rev your engine. So that was a normal condition for that valve. All the other valves move freely. Everything looks good. I've got everything hooked up. We're going to put fluid in it in the morning. We'll fire it up, see what happens. If I did my job right, it will work. If I didn't, it's going to come apart really quickly, and we'll find out what I did wrong. It's probably been 5 or 6 years since I've had one of these transmissions apart. Wasn't too bad. It's kind of like riding a bike. You don't really forget how to do it. I don't have the muscle memory as I did when I was doing these back in the dealer. I was doing 4L60Es like 1 or 2 a day back when I was at the height of my dealer working. But yeah, I'm gonna pop the wheels off because I was playing with valve stem and it broke off. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess the valve stems didn't get replaced when these tires got put on. So we're gonna put 4 valve stems on these tires so that we don't have an issue where I have to go pick him up on the side of the road because of a flat tire. So that's next on the agenda. I did get his twin tips installed. They look pretty good. Got some clamps to hang back there. It'll be ready to roll. So I threw about 8 quarts of fluid down in this thing. Fire it up, check our fluid level. I dropped one of Austin's Never Start batteries down in here. It's cranking over. I'm going to drop some fuel down the card because this thing hasn't been running in quite some time. See if that'll help us get this thing to pop off. Hey, look, it's a Quadrajet. popping off. Still don't have any fluid in it. Sounds awesome. Alright, so it starts, it runs. I should have pretty close to the amount of trans fluid in it I need. I'm actually going to fire it up, drop it into gear, and the rear wheels should start actually moving. So let's find out. Yeah, but it doesn't stall when you put it in gear now.
That's true. So you're gonna be the one to take it for a drive? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Go out and promptly do a burnout.
That'd be easy in the snow.
It's probably not the best thing to do on a fresh trans, although the clutches are already broken in and they have extra friction modifier in them. So.
Big burnout.
So it starts, it runs, it goes into gear, it goes into reverse. It does not stall the engine. So my conclusion is still that the converter had an internal failure that was causing a stall condition for the engine. We are actually going to have this torque converter sent back to the guys that built it. They're going to cut it open and send us some pictures of it, try and help us understand what happened inside the converter. Who knows, maybe they had a bad casting, maybe it was assembled wrong. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was assembled wrong because it went 400 miles before the failure. So I would venture to guess that the stator had a casting flaw and it fractured and caused the failure. Everything else looked pretty good. We're gonna put some miles on this thing, see what we see, make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to do. I did air check all my pistons before I put the valve body on and closed up the tranny, and everything functions internally as it should. So as long as I didn't, put a thrust washer in backwards, which is hard to do, or leave one out, which is easy to do, pull your tranny apart, thrust bearing rolls off the table and underneath another cart laying around. That's why I like to start with a clean table and put all my parts out, and then I can when I'm all done, I check my table for parts, and I don't have any leftover parts. It's a good thing. Anyway, it is what it is. We're gonna get this thing back on the ground, get it out pounding the pavement, and hopefully share some adventures with you. It's still cold outside. We're supposed to have a heat flash today. It's supposed to get up to like 56. I think it's at like 28 right now, so let me get this thing outside. And then I will check the trans fluid again. Looks like I need to tighten that hinge down, hood down. Why don't I do that while I'm thinking about it? From the springs. Whatever. Ta-da! Let's see if it'll pull itself out of the shop. Hey, the Matco guy's here. The Matco guy's out front. We never know he's here because he never comes in and says, hey, I'm here. But he's out front. Goes in reverse, doesn't kill the motor. We're going to run a storage wrench across the blunt nuts. This thing's going to make a little short trip over to Jake's warehouse and return a few items. So we'll come depending back off the stocking. And see how she runs. Brakes and take it apart yet. But I think we got it lit. At any rate, thanks for watching. Click like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next one.